you are trying to build a brand and you are not just trying to sell a product, you need to make a fundamental change about the marketing that you are deploying. My name is Greg Lavecchia. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Bloom. We are on a floating vessel, AKA a yacht.
You can convert someone with an ad. You've converted them on a product. You haven't necessarily converted them on a lifestyle. I really understand every component to the business.
We have Leo, the president of Bloom, sitting next to me. We've been steering this ship. How do you actually measure if your content is working beyond views? To speak to somebody very specific is the greatest way to get a jump start from day zero.
There's no such thing as too late.
Dare I say, you're almost more if you're too early. Welcome back. What's the smartest cheap marketing move you made in year one that you'd absolutely repeat today? When I started Bloom, or when my wife and I started Bloom, the algorithm was chronological. By chronological, I mean if somebody posted, their post was at the top of somebody's newsfeed. I don't even think there was an explore page at the time. No. There was like suggested posts. We arbitraged the chronological algorithm by buying posts on popular meme pages. We did not advertise Bloom. We did not advertise a product. What we advertised was just bringing the community or growing the community and asking people to join the community. If you are trying to build a brand and you are not just trying to sell a product, which is what our whole careers are based around, building a brand, you need to just put everything towards growing the community. So we would buy ad space on these meme pages and ask them to post a meme of really my wife, the founder of the brand, and say, go follow Mari Llewellyn. And if they followed Mari Llewellyn and they joined Mari's community, we know that would create the foundation for somebody who would eventually probably want to buy Bloom products, because Bloom products were very much associated with Mari's community. So the true initial marketing arbitrage for us to be able to get real reach, real impressions, real eyeballs on our community and get people to join was actually through meme page arbitrage. The version of that today, I mean, it's basically just, that is what influencer marketing is. We were doing brand deals on meme pages. It was basically one of the earliest versions of influencer marketing that really worked. So meme page marketing was the first cheap marketing funnel test that we did at scale. Now, I have some horror stories of when that didn't work. There was a few times I put all of our money into one meme ad. Like if we had 10,000 in the bank, I spent $10,000 on a Thursday night buying like 3 huge meme ads on new pages. I'd click deploy, I'd send the PayPal. Dude, every single follower we got was from fucking India. There was not one American follower. And that's where we started to learn about the different ways to evaluate metrics around what makes marketing work. And that is the perfect segue to the next question. And Leo, I think you'll crush this one. How do you actually measure if your content is working beyond views?
Well, sales. I mean, I assume most of you guys are probably selling digital products or products you could only buy online. So if you spend money on something that isn't meta, that's like attributable directly back to revenue, you should be able to see a sales pickup when that media gets impressions or views and whatever you've deployed it on. And if it doesn't, then it's like, it probably doesn't make sense. Like you should, if you're sub 100 million in revenue, or sub 50 million in revenue maybe, you should probably have a immediacy of sales when you do some type of marketing stunt.
When we first started to scale the influencer marketing program, before it was at tremendous scale, every time an influencer would post, we would see our Amazon search volume go up and see our Shopify website traffic go up live time within 1 minute of that video being posted. Yeah. If you are not experiencing that with your affiliates posting or with your influencers posting or with your ads going live, your marketing is most likely not quality. You need to change something fundamental. You need to make a fundamental change about the marketing that you are deploying. You should see live time search volume and website traffic, and ideally with a normal conversion rate, you'll see sales happening at that point. If you're trying to think, and this is the next question, if you're trying to think of what are some of the key metrics that you should be watching that you aren't necessarily, that the textbook doesn't tell you to watch every single day, it is your hour by hour sales. More granular than just daily sales. And the reason I bring that up is because we would see huge spikes sometimes come out of nowhere. That was not a result of our marketing. It'd be because of our competitors' marketing. So, for example, Poppy ran a Super Bowl ad 2 years in a row, the last 2 years. Our Better For You soda, Bloom Pop, lifted in sales as a result of their Super Bowl ad. So like no one on our team was responsible for that sales lift, but us just being in the right place of distribution as a result of our competitor lifting that entire category resulted in our sales increase. So similarly, back before beverage, when we were selling a greens powder, when Athletic Greens would run a Joe Rogan ad or buy the front page of the Wall Street Journal, we would see a sales lift on Amazon at Target. So it's like trying to make a correlation between to every single spike in sales that happens and understand why it's happening is one of the best things that you can do as a leader of your business. All right, Leo, what's a growth lever you pulled too late and what's one you pulled too early?
There's no such thing as too late.
We're never the first to the race.
No.
We were not the first greens powder. We were definitely not the first energy drink. We were not the first soda. We were not the first on TikTok Shop. We were not the first on Instagram. We were not the first on Amazon or Shopify or at Target. There's nothing wrong with being late. In fact, we have harnessed or we have garnered so much strength in this industry by letting the foundation get laid before we arrive. You could say, all right, Greg and Leo, you could have been earlier on TikTok Shop, but I don't think the consumer was ready to see a brand as prominent as we were on TikTok Shop yet. And we strategically needed to just change some elements about our business and do that properly before we struck. Before we struck TikTok Shop, we needed to change some things about our business fundamentally. And if we just launched on there without preparation, we would have been sloppy. And you don't want to do anything sloppy. Get there right.
In hindsight, and I think probably people in the 10, 20 million revenue range, this is relevant. We could have launched our energy drinks sooner, right? We had built the brand, but I think we were so when you're building a brand and you have one product or a small set of products, it becomes way easier to market and get the brand out there than if you have a huge assortment of products. It adds a lot of complexity. So in hindsight, you could say we built the brand, we could have launched the energy drink maybe 6 months, a year earlier, but there's no such thing as too late.
The biggest takeaway is there's no such thing as too late. It's not, TikTok Shop's been around for 3 years, you're still not late for the gold rush.
And there'll be another one.
Facts. Dare I say, you're almost more fucked if you're too early. Because if you're too early, you need to spend money on educating the consumer, which we never want to. We come from a bootstrap background with no outside investors. Every dollar needs to work, and I don't want to waste money on educating a consumer on what an energy drink is. Everyone already knows what an energy drink is. We just need to communicate to them that ours is better and it's worth switching to or trying an energy drink for the first time. But I don't need to tell anyone why you would need to introduce this to your life. Okay. What's a positioning decision early on that looking back was worth more than any single tactic you ran? You start niche. You start in the niches of large categories. So when Bloom launched pre-workout, we found the niche of women. And then within the niche of women, which was even more niche than it is today of women who wanted to take a pre-workout, we found women who wanted to lose body fat while weightlifting, and this was a pre-workout for them, and had anxiety issues, or were dealing with trying to keep their anxiety at bay. That is such an outrageously niche product that can never scale past maybe $5 to $10 million a year. But it is a space that no corporation will take the time of day to give specific attention to. So this wasn't like a market. I guess this was a tactic. Everything is a tactic, but starting with niches and positioning your product in that way to speak to somebody very specific is the greatest way to get a jump start from day zero.
The decision to start an influencer marketing program on TikTok, it's not I guess that could be considered a tactic. There's a tons of micro tactics within there about how do you get the influencers and what influencers do you choose, but just starting an influencer program was probably one of the more powerful things we did.
Yeah.
Put aside the specific tactics.
Yeah, and the last thing I would add is finding white space through more than just the product itself. So we noticed a lot of our competitors were only available in certain sales channels. So for example, our largest competitor to our greens powder was Athletic Greens. They were only a direct to consumer. You could only buy it at athleticgreens.com or whatever the hell their website was. They weren't available in Target. They weren't available in Walmart. They weren't available on Amazon. We launched in these distribution channels where our competitors weren't available, and that was a white space in itself that gave us a huge competitive advantage. And we rode that wave for years until Athletic Greens started to become an omni-channel business, and now they're on the decline because their entire marketing mix doesn't work for an omni-channel operation, but that's a story for another day. Shout out to Athletic Greens. Then, All right, next question. What does growth actually look like at this stage when you're no longer learning the basics but refining the man? Growth at this stage is, instead of making tactical pivots on a daily basis, it's just longer, higher quality decisions, I would say.
Yeah.
Simply put.
I think it for, at least in the marketing arena, it's gone from, like wanting to change something. There's still, you still need to do stuff immediately, but the goal I'm thinking, or we're thinking about, is not the end of this month. It's actually like, all right, what this thing looks like at the end of the year. And so that's been a big change. And it used to be monthly, then it moved to quarterly, and now it's kind of like, we're looking at things 6 months, but it doesn't remove the work you need to do to get to wherever you want to go at the end of the...
You just reminded me of a good one. I think the big difference is that the work we're doing today, we won't see for 6 months. Back in the day, the work we did today was work that we could possibly deploy as an ad, or deploy as a website edit, or deploy as an email marketing blast that day.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, well, actually, just to jump on that again, when you get a brand this size, all the marketing you're doing today is actually not the thing that's driving sales. It's like the snowball's been rolling so big down the hill at this point, we could probably shut off all marketing for 6 months and we'll still continue growing based on all of the marketing and brand awareness and displays and retailers we have. But it's like, at our stage, it's now trying to get ahead of that and always try to find the new growth pillar, which ends up being 6 months out, because you need, it requires more investment, more people,
lawyers,
more work.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And then I think you mentioned refining the man. I don't know if that was a typo, but yeah, I think it's like the first step to becoming an amazing entrepreneur and continuing to grow as an entrepreneur is becoming the man or the woman who can be that entrepreneur. So in the last 12 to 18 to 24 months, Leo and I have been doing more self-work than ever. And sure, maybe we're new fathers, and some of our relationships are a different priority level than maybe they used to be. Whatever it is, it's also because we're trying to become fucking leaders in this space. And we didn't think 24 months ago when we looked in the mirror that we are billion-dollar operators. So we needed to do self-work to become a billion-dollar operator so that we can become a billion-dollar operator. What's the difference between a brand that gets noticed and a brand that gets bought tactically? We have seen brands rip through $100 million in just a year or two. That shit happens in 2026. It's fucking incredible. And sometimes it's like founders who aren't even legally allowed to drink yet. They're below 21 years old. It's fucking crazy. But no acquirers will buy their brand. And this is why you can't do things sloppy. This is why, sure, could you run an impulsively charged Facebook ad that just convinces somebody that your product cures some fucking disease and they'll buy your shit? Probably. But nobody wants to buy a brand that was built off of negligent marketing or irresponsible marketing. I think the difference between a brand that gets bought and a brand that just gets noticed, it's tough to sell a brand that's just built off of performance marketing.
It is, yeah, because you got to think in today's day and age, and maybe it wasn't, it's actually, there used to be a big mail order industry in the United States before there was online shopping. And you can convert someone with an ad, but you've converted them on a product. You haven't necessarily converted them on a lifestyle or a brand association. And so in terms of style or approach of marketing, that could be an issue tactically. I think also where you can run into trouble is if you're just fundamentally not a profitable business. And so if you're scaling, let's say, a supplement business and your cost of goods is already maximized and you've scaled it past 100 million and you can't get over a 45% gross margin, it's not necessarily going to be an attractive business for an acquirer to be interested in. And so some of those, when you go to sell a business, those finer details become very important, because an acquirer wants to know people are going to buy the products this company puts out, not just one product. And then two, they're going to want to know there's a path to increase the profit on this product, right? Or on this product line.
So another one would be key man risk. There is a reason this brand is not called the Mari's supplements or Mari's energy drinks. You generally do not want the brand associated with somebody's name, right? There are a lot of brands. I mean, unless you're Robert Irvine with that fucking protein bar, or George Foreman Grill, of course there's exceptions to every rule.
He basically made a technology, the George Foreman Grill.
He's also
he's like the iPhone.
Yeah, Jordan Foreman is the iPhone.
It is a grill.
It's equally as culturally relevant.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Key man risk is a huge one. Whether that's you literally name the brand after yourself, or like no one would want to buy Bloom if they felt like myself, Mari, and Leo were absolutely integral to the success of that company for whatever reason.
And notwithstanding, it's like we didn't call it the company, Forever Greens or something like that, right? Like, it's not really great to name a brand after a product either.
The best brands are platform brands. Yeah. Bloom is a platform brand that started with pre-workouts, went to recovery powders, protein powders, greens powders, energy drinks, now better for you sodas. And all of our marketing from day one, if you go back years to our original TikToks about the Bloom greens, it was Bloom greens and superfoods. It wasn't just like, go buy this greens powder. We always made sure the brand name was mentioned in the video.
Well, and I think people were even referring it to as like, let me drink my Bloom.
Yeah, you might have not even said Bloom Greens. You just said, let me drink my Bloom.
When it was just greens.
Good point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw one that isn't as obvious. If you as the founder have a bad reputation, you need to be very careful about trying to sell your brand. If you have a bad reputation, why would anybody trust you in a diligence process? If you enter a diligence process with a potential acquirer for months on end where they're going to try to figure out all of the skeletons in your closet, and you aren't trustworthy or have a trustworthy reputation, they just won't entertain the idea of a transaction. You need to have a good reputation in this game. I think that's 5 good takeaways of huge watch outs for potentially selling your business. Okay, next question. What do you think people fundamentally misunderstand about what it takes to build real wealth?
Pretty much all the real wealth in the world is built through equity. Not much of it is built through like a company that one person owns and they just pay themselves a shitload of the profit. A lot of it is built through this equity is worth something. I'm going to reinvest all the profits back into the business. And at some point I might sell a portion of my business. I might sell a portion and go public and my equity value can grow. So I think that's a huge, huge factor. And that goes back to building not a conversion machine, but building a brand. It's like, you want to build something that you can give to like, some guy has no idea what you're doing. It's a set of systems and a way to show up in front of consumers. That's what's valuable. Yeah. And that's how you would make selling whatever that is how you make real money.
And then I'll do just a contrarian take on this. I think I thought it would take 50 years. I think society growing up told us that you don't become wealthy until you're 50, 60 years old. And in 2026, that just is 100% not true. We're 10 years into this journey, and relatively speaking, we have financial success. So I definitely did not believe that in my earlier 20s.
Hell no. No, you would think like you'd make it at 50 or 60. Yeah. And I think that just goes to, you have certain areas of the economy. In the 1990s, it was Wall Street. In 2020s, it's TikTok Shop, right? Like there's certain areas of the economies, and the reality is the society set up to tell you that finance is still the opportunity. It's fucking not. It is TikTok Shop. At 19 years old, you can make $1 million, or at 16, you can make $1 million. You can't do that anywhere else. And so I think focusing on the new age economies, where the growth is happening, is ultimately where you want to end up. It's fine if you get experience in corporations because they'll teach you best in class practices, but you have to remember when you work for a corporation, that is something that is scaled already. So like, let's say you work for Microsoft. That business is like ultimate scale. If you go and learn sales there, you'll learn sales of Microsoft, which may be very relevant if you go apply that to a small company, a startup, which hasn't necessarily applied that best-in-class practices. And I'm not saying that the Microsoft sales skills are necessarily applicable to a startup. That might not be a good example. But like, there's a lot of great stuff you can learn working for someone else in a established industry that you could then apply to new age areas of the economy.
All right, what is something you believed about money when you were broke that turned out to be completely wrong? Wealth is not accumulated through your business making sales, it's accumulated through enterprise value. So we didn't make a lot of money from Bloom. I think my salary is still under $200,000 a year from Bloom. Leo makes more money than me at Bloom, it's really fucked up. But he signed off on that document and didn't tell me.
That's how you need to know corporate structures.
So you don't make, I didn't become wealthy, relatively speaking, from my salary. We became wealthy when we sold 30% of Bloom. And that's enterprise value. And that is true to 90% of the people that I meet of extreme wealth.
I don't want to give a cliche.
Please, give a cliche.
I'll give a cliche. You can set up in your head that money is the goal of whatever you're trying to do business-wise, and you will get that money, and it won't be that for you. And I think you idolize it when you don't have money. That, like, you know, you're gonna make all this money, and you're gonna feel like the top of the world. You will feel the same. The way you feel will not change.
Bro, could you imagine if we were on this boat by yourself right now?
But that's, yeah, I mean,
that'd be fucking whack.
Well, to build on that, it's like we have wives, we have children, and like you have to invest in those relationships, and for you to have a good life, throw away all the money. Like if you just had a good relationship with your wife and a great relationship with your child, you're going to have a good life. And so to think like you just insert X 8 figures amount of money into your bank account and like suddenly like fucking joyful, it's great, but like it won't make you happy.
It's part of the equation, but it's far from the whole equation.
Yeah.
How do you stay grounded as you grow and the stakes get higher? So not how do you stay grounded with success, but dude, we're making some scary fucking decisions these days, like 9-figure decisions. We actually got a text this morning about a pretty significant 8-figure decision.
Yeah. I think, and this has been my experience, as we've gone through our career, you begin to understand what you have. And so with Bloom, I think I have a very good understanding of the business and the fundamentals and the value underlying. And so as the stakes have gotten higher, I've actually felt more comfortable in our positioning because, and maybe this is a good one, I really understand every component to the business. And I'm not saying I'm a wizard, but like I understand the operation, I understand the legal, I understand the marketing, I understand the retail sales, I understand the corporate structures, I understand pretty much all of it. And so that, I was more stressed at 50 million than I am now, and I think that has just been a journey of learning.
All that entrepreneurship is, or all that becoming a great entrepreneur is accumulating wisdom. And you don't accumulate wisdom through reading books about corporate structure. You learn corporate structure through working with your lawyers and creating an incredible corporate structure. You learn this shit in the arena. And so if you're 25 feeling chaotic and just feeling unaware of things that are happening, you're supposed to feel that way. Yeah. We felt that way. We felt worse with the lower stakes because of our lack of wisdom and experience than we do now.
Yeah, and maybe to add on to that, I think generally when you feel confused or you don't know the path to go in, it's probably because you don't have a system. And so one of the systems we first created was the influencer marketing program, which like really was correlated to sales, going back to marketing to sales. And that system led us to a big revenue number. And then we needed to launch a new product. There's now a system for launching products. There's a system for how we go about doing retail sales, and we have more partners, but like the more systems you have in place and structures of like repeatable actions leading to bigger outcomes, the less confused you're gonna feel. And like the less lack of direction, the more clear you'll think.
To remove the stakes from this, just to like how to stay grounded when things get fucking huge, the feeling of being grounded is intrinsic. It is internal. No matter how big your decisions get, or if you make 10 amazing decisions in a row, you're not going to feel more grounded because of your success rate. You're going to feel more grounded because you're realizing after you make 100 really bad decisions, the world didn't end. And Leo's still my best friend, and I'm still married to my wife, and we're having fun regardless, and we laugh about the mistakes afterwards, and we've laughed about every one of those 100 mistakes afterwards. So just realizing that like nothing is world ending, nothing is catastrophic unless it's truly catastrophic, don't do that. But
there are a few things.
Don't ever multiply by 0.
Yeah.
But just realizing like, dude, it's all gonna be okay, and you just need to treat this like a game that has no finish line, and that giant mistake will just end up making you better. That's how you stay grounded when the stakes are high. What do you do when you feel stuck? Not motivationally, but genuinely unclear on what the right move is next. you need to have people around you to consult. At this stage in the game, at least, and earlier on, like when it was just my wife and I, you need somebody else to bounce ideas off of who have incremental points of views, different point of view as you, on how to bring different biases to that decision making. Today, there's several people in the room when we're making large decisions. Also, we have some of our best ideas when we just get out of the office for a couple days.
Yeah.
We get out of the office, we go on some hikes, we go on a little bit of a trip like this, and we just chat about things from an outside lens looking in on how are things operating back home, and we come up with some of the best ideas we ever have when we're away from Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
I think you can, in business, definitely there's so many different areas where you can get stuck. Operations, logistics, etc. I think as long as you are focused on marketing or sales and looking, like constantly thinking about what is the new angle, and that new angle might come to you from a podcast you listen to or someone you speak to, or maybe a completely different industry. And like that, if you have a systematic approach to always looking for the new angle, you will feel stuck less.
Yeah. What's a habit, mindset, or behavior you had at 25 that would embarrass you if you still had it today? I used to think that the optimal man was somebody who could click a dial between CEO Greg, father Greg, husband Greg, son Greg, friend Greg. I think what it looks like today is somebody who is the same Greg in all situations. And I took that to the extreme when we were 25. When we lived in Boulder, Colorado, I was probably 24, 25. When I finished the workday, I would be incredibly stressed and wanting to unplug from CEO Greg, so I'd rip a fucking bong the size of my left leg.
Bong life.
Bong life. Because I was like, this is how I will turn off and turn into relax, hang out in the house Greg. And it's like, there was no need for it. Was so outrageously unproductive. I'm so embarrassed. You asked what I'm embarrassed to look back at. That'd be something I'm embarrassed to look back at. At 25, what were you? You were on Wall Street? No, you were starting.
No. Yeah, I did the same shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe at that age you're a little bit immature, or maybe we just didn't have the right guidance, where you think you want to disconnect. And I felt like also I was angrier more, like a lot of the work ethic was driven by some type of anxiety or anger, which looking back I was like, I wish I was just more neutral to optimistic about everything.
Dude, I was just volatile. Like I was either dieting or binge eating. You know what I mean? I wasn't just like a Greg who lived a healthy life all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I was either not drinking alcohol or drinking alcohol heavily.
Yeah.
Like I practiced absolutism on both sides of the spectrum, going all in or all out. And it's like now I drink tequila sometimes. I smoke cigars sometimes. I eat whatever I want sometimes, but it's not like a binge eating. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's just like a less volatile life, and I am so much happier than I used to be. And anybody watching this, your 30s are better than your 20s. We're 31 now, and I think we can. They're so much fucking better.
It's pretty good.
Confirmed. It's
Confirmed good.
Okay. All right. Speaking of feeling good, how many cigars a day is most optimal to be firing on all cylinders? That's a real question, so don't fucking. I didn't put that in there.
Is that real?
Depends the size of the cigar, right? So in front of me, I have 3 different size cigars. Sorry.
There's ash flying everywhere.
You have a small cigarello. You have a medium-sized cigar, like this, when it was longer. Then you have a little bit of a fatty, like this.
That's
size
of
a medium-sized dog's poop.
That's an Italian sausage leg.
Yeah, this is larger than my thumb. Cigarellos, you could probably get away with 6 a day.
6?
This fatty, this is really only a couple times a week I'll bring out a fatty. But yeah, I'm a big fan of nicotine. I think nicotine has been something that I've been able to replace a lot of pharmaceuticals with to help me with my ADHD. I don't touch pharmaceuticals for the last probably 24 months plus, and a reason for that is nicotine. Now obviously I have mints that I chew too, almost like Zins, but I don't like Zins. And yeah, I think a cigar a day is fine. It seems to be doing just fine for me. Advice for someone whose family and close friends don't believe in what they're building. 90% of the time, nobody doing better than you will speak down on you. A lot of people will feel jealous at the idea that you are even going after your moonshot or going after your own venture, because they've just daydreamed about it through their 20s and 30s and they never actually did it, and they don't want to watch you go after your fucking dreams. I'll be honest, when I started this YouTube channel, when I started this Instagram page, there are people in my, not immediate network, but outside network, who I know for a fact talk down to the idea that I was starting this personal brand page. Even at my level, people speak down to new ideas. Dude, people who I know in my immediate circle said that the soda was a horrible idea. And like made fun of the fact that we were making a better for you soda, especially when I told them the flavor was Shirley Temple. They like mocked the idea of it. It's now the #1 selling better for you soda in all of Target and Walmart. It's a necessary part of the game, but going back to intrinsic and extrinsic, these outside voices don't fucking matter. And what my wife and I did, and eventually Leo joined us on this journey, moving where you live is the single most powerful way to change the negative energy around you and starting in a fresh pond of people. We were in Brooklyn, New York. After Mari and I came from Boulder, Colorado, we linked up with Leo in Brooklyn, New York. And then we went to LA. We lived in LA for a few years. That circle was not motivating as much as maybe it did in the early days. And then now we moved to Austin, Texas. And the simplest answer I can give you is just pack your bags and buy a fucking plane ticket.
Yeah, I would not get focused on what other people say or think. I think if you will know in your heart or in your brain that like you're able to do this, and if you have the conviction you're able to do this, disregard everyone else. They're not on the same journey as you and they'll never understand.
Click subscribe. I'm posting something like this at least once a week. We're fired up to be making them. Leave some comments below or questions below, or shoot me a DM on anything you want us to address next. We're here to help. We really are. Leo, thank you, bro.